Well, here we are, face-to-face, a couple of TexAgs fans. I don't know what to say, guys. It's not been a fun season. There's still a lot of season left. Oh, yeah, Alabama's coming. You know the storylines. Can the offensive line block better, please? Can the defensive line get to the quarterback? Those are some of the issues we were examining here, and just the state of the program. Is Jimbo going to be willing to change the offense mid-season, next season? A lot of things that we were discussing here on the program. So we did talk about a new offensive coordinator in the future with Billy Liucci. Tom Hart did join the show. We broke down more of the offensive struggles, and we tried to break it all down during the go hour. Actually, all 3 hours were a breakdown of good, bad, actually a lot of bad and ugly. It's TexAgs Rewind.
Now, I get it. A&M has a very young roster, okay? You know what? Those are the guys you put out there.
Yep.
And those are the and why do you have a young roster? Because you've had 4 consecutive top 10 classes, okay? So, I understand some guys are hurt. Everybody has guys hurt, almost everybody. The deal is that you got to go out there and perform better. It's not like offensively it's been a one-time thing. Even when they've not given up a lot of points on defense, they're terrible on third down.
Yep.
They struggle to get them off the field. Even Damani Richardson said in the post-game interview, he said, "We're not playing as well as people have said we are."
And the truth is, I think we've all thought that, except when you looked at the production, the other scores.
We just looked at scores,
right? But the fact is, teams have run on A&M for now really 2 seasons.
So, let me be very clear. I think Jimbo Fisher's a really good football coach, and I think he is a good fit here. But he is not infallible, and he's not above criticism. And the same demands that should have been placed on his predecessor should be placed on him. And if you're not getting it done, then it's absolutely fair to ask questions. Why not? And raise some demands. Of course, it's hard to have demands when you're in the kind of financial arrangement you are.
Yeah, but I am not this is to me.
We're not calling for this job.
No, I love Jimbo Fisher, an amazing recruiter. I think he is a great CEO. I think right now, for 2 seasons that I've witnessed, the offense is bad, and there are a lot of almost plays. But after a while, this is who you are right now. This is you. And I heard yesterday we had some NIL interviews and some stacked interviews, and again another week of practice wasn't great, is what I heard. By midweek it wasn't trending in the right direction. Well, that needs to change.
See, to me that would leave me dumbfounded. When you just beat Arkansas, and you would think, if that's true, you would think as players, you've just beaten Arkansas and Miami back to back. Hey, look where we're going. I would think that they'd be more enthusiastic for practice. But is that not just the latest or another one of the excuses that are popping up?
This team can still turn the season into a fun year, right? It can still be a fun year.
Well, the second half of the season on paper doesn't appear as challenging as the first half. There's no doubt about that.
You just have to redo your expectations from where you are right now. And I'm not going to redo my expectations today because I'm kind of down about them. But I do think that I told you before the show, I'm not saying A&M's going to go and beat Alabama. Okay? But I don't know. Maybe they will. That's what I'm saying. Because I don't know this team. They do have the talent. They did it last year. But again, if you are making mistakes on the road, you will lose.
Yeah, I mean, we didn't see it coming last year when they beat Alabama. But if you had to put your own money on it, you probably wouldn't take A&M and the 21 points. It's a 21 point.
But how has Jimbo done against top teams? And I know he hasn't won all of them, but typically the games are close. I know there was a couple years ago, was it 2019, that it wasn't close? Oh, no, it was 2020. It was 2020.
Against Alabama, yeah. But that one could have been. There was 2 key drop passes. Otherwise, that would have been a really close game.
Right.
Look, he's had some great moments. The win over Kentucky is one of those underrated, underappreciated win. beating Florida, beating Alabama. There's been a lot of really big time wins, but you should expect and demand more.
But the offense is, even if you make those plays, the offense is still underperforming completely.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, you look at the passing yardage numbers, there's no excusing it. I believe it was Max Olson that tweeted it out. A&M's passing yards in the first half of games against FBS. That's not even Power 5 because you have to put FBS there because it's App State. And I think the highest passing yardage total in a half in those 4 games is 56. That's insane. Like, Army and Air Force throw for that amount of yards. I mean, you can't look at it if you're Jimbo and say this works. This is just a matter of, man, here's a guy that dropped a pass. Here's a guy that missed a block, or that's a big play. Quarterback should have thrown it to this guy. He held it too long, or he threw it to the wrong guy. He should have thrown it here. He wasted a play here. He could throw it to the check down. This running back hit the wrong hole. No. You can't. And again, I think we've heard that too much. Like, the plays are there, just got to execute. I get it. Like, I bet if Jimbo could give us a master class today in the presser on here's a video, here are the plays. You see what happened here? This should have been this. They're all drawn up to succeed. And I think, most guys are probably doing the right thing on most plays, but it's always kind of like something, whether it's the quarterback, there's been several, whether it's a young O-line or there's been several different coaches. At some point, and you can't just say, yeah, it's the mistakes that cost us. Of course it is. And some days the mistakes are bigger than others. And, like against App State, I think there were a lot of missed throws down the field or open guys, and there were missed blocks. Well, against Mississippi State this week, the mistakes were turnovers and just blatant missed blocks. It almost got your quarterback killed. Well, mistakes are mistakes, and that's the one consistent thing is that this offense is close but doesn't get it done. And yeah, David, I do think if you're Jimbo Fisher, an A&M coach or an A&M player right now, and you can watch that tape and go, my God, I mean, what a series of just back-breaking mistakes, Evan Stewart drops a touchdown. He sticks one hand out inexplicably for a ball and it gets intercepted. They get a terrible call on a blocked field goal. I mean, that guy was so far offside, I think the SEC offices had to call Sunday and admit they screwed it up. I mean, it was that bad. But still, you got the ball with a chance to cut it. So Stewart drops a touchdown. And your best player fumbles inside the 5-yard line to put you up 7-0. Maybe your best player on defense drops a pick six. But you get a chance there to score right away, early third, mid-third, and make it 14-10. I mean, that is an absolute ball game that could go either way. You get the ball. The defense did make a great play. They got a takeaway. And you do nothing with it and then get a field goal blocked. And I know the block shouldn't have happened. It should have been a penalty, and they should have had an easy field goal for 14-6. But the fact that you had an opportunity and a drop touchdown, get the ball right back, and then do nothing and have to kick another field goal, that's an indictment on the offense. But, yeah, there's a ton of plays in that game where you look at it and you go, yeah, I could see where this thing would have been completely different. I get it, but it wasn't. And the reality is you got whipped on both lines of scrimmage by Mississippi State, by a Mike Leach football team that lined up and ran the ball on you more than Mississippi State ever does to anyone because you dared them to do it, and they did it. They took it. They took what was there. The whole thing about Saturday just doesn't, it doesn't sit well, and I get where the game could have been.
The Alabama wasn't as good as they normally are. And I still may think that, by the way, that their offensive line is suspect. that the defense isn't as advertised. Does it really matter when everybody else is worse too? Like, it's just like they do what they do, and they seem to maybe have a hiccup, and they fix their issues moving forward.
So what you're saying is that the gap is still the same gap. It's just everyone's moved back a step.
That's what it feels like, yeah.
It's an interesting theory. I mean, I'm feeling it. We had Alabama for the opener, and they looked like an elite team, and not only the best in the country, but one of the best we've seen at Alabama in some time, especially coming off of a rebuilding year, like Saban said they had last year. Bryce Young, I think, is the best quarterback in the country, and he thinks like Steph Curry, and he thinks like a point guard, and he behaves and has the confidence of Patrick Mahomes. The injury obviously is going to change what he does and how often he has the ball in his hands. But their wide receivers weren't where they needed to be through the first 3 games of the season. And then against Vanderbilt, they were all on the same page, and it's like, all right, they got it figured out. And you got to sometimes take the opponent out of it. So I think they were building back, but then the Bryce Young injury occurred. So I think they're still elite, and I think there's still only a handful of elite teams in college football. Time will tell if Alabama's really back to the pack, but the biggest it's all pivoting on the health at quarterback.
You had me rolling with your tweet, and I think it was yesterday, with Cole and Stetson. Oh my goodness, the evil face that they were both putting on there, the stink guy, that was great.
At Tom_Hart, yes, Stetson Bennett looks like a henchman. Like he looks like, and Georgia behaved like Kaiser Sose Saturday night. Right? Like, he looks like, I'm just a down on my luck guy. Nothing's going right. I'm a victim of all these circumstances. And then with 4 minutes to go, Stetson Bennett, like Kaiser Sose, fixed his limp, stood up tall, bang, bang, bang. They take their first lead with 4 minutes to go. They walk right out before the authorities even know what happened. And Georgia's still Georgia, and Missouri in many ways is still Missouri.
After this week, I think they're going to realize you don't have an option, and you got a little time to get it done. And I'm not saying South Carolina. And there's not a game that A&M can circle and say we're definitely winning this. There's not. There's also, after Bama, not a game that you say they can't win.
Right.
But in order to get to that part of it, where they can win them all, or even most of them, you got to really revamp and change what you're doing on that side of the ball.
Somebody brings up the 2010 Sherman. Did he?
Yeah, he did too. That is true. That's a great one, because they basically leaned into, okay, we're going to start Jake Matthews. They started Jokel all year, and then they said, okay, it's time. We're starting Jake, because they almost lost to Kansas.
Right.
In Lawrence, I think. They'd gotten spanked by Oak State and Missouri, and they said, okay, we're gonna change things. And they did that. But again, quarterback change. They plugged in Tannehill. Gerard was hurt. He wasn't the same guy. They plugged in Tannehill. And who, by the way, Gerard Johnson's starting to make a name for himself as a QB's coach. Just saying. They plugged in Tannehill, and they started feeding the damn ball to Cyrus Gray. And just feeding him. And by the end of that year, this guy ran for 100 yards like 10 straight weeks. He went for 200 against Texas in Austin, and it was all rolling for that offense at that point.
You said something to me that caught my attention. It feels like 3 years in a row that even the good year, the 9-1 year, that the offense didn't have an identity at a point where they should have had an identity. This year, this is their offensive identity, but it isn't one. Last year, you could say for the most part, it was just they were trying to figure it out each week. And you go back to the 2020 season, it was 2 games into it, or the third game, before they really figured it out. And it sounds like mid-game, like, all right, This is what we're going to be. That, to me, sounds like a problem.
Yeah, I think you'd be crazy to look at offensively and say there's not a problem. And it's like I said yesterday, I just think Jimbo has an opportunity here to really flip this thing and turn this thing immediately. And money's not going to be an issue. But to hire the best guy, I think when it comes to that, he's going to have to. I think he has to be in charge of this hire the whole time, from wire to wire. Like, don't farm it out to anybody. Don't let your agent give you a list of names. No search for nothing. Like, from the first phone call to the last, Jimbo, like, take the time and do it. This is the most important thing. I think it's the most important thing he's going to do while he's here. And I'm assuming, obviously I'm making a big assumption here, but I'm fine doing that because I believe with absolute certainty it'll come to that. It's the biggest hire he'll make. And it could be a championship type hire. I'm telling you, we've seen guys reinvent. We name. Jim Harbaugh's done it.
Yeah.
Kirby's done it. Nick's done it. Patterson's done it. Ed O, that's the most famous one of them all. That guy couldn't coach his way out of a paper sack. He can't sit in the same room as Jimbo, or even his own guy on his staff and Dave Aranda. That was another one where I've told that story where they literally, a veteran coach on that staff had to tell Ed O, like, back off. Let this guy do it. You're in his crap. He's flustered. You're just too much like an alpha. You're in there. You're his boss. He's like, back off. Let him do it. He's good. I believe he's good. And then their defense changed mid-season. They were elite by the end of the year against A&M, Georgia, Alabama, you name it. Clemson right there in the championship. So all of these guys have kind of been – Mac Brown is a perfect example of it. When Vince, okay, man, we've got this special guy. I just need to let just back off a little bit and let it go. And I think if he does that, the talent is here. I think he's got the young quarterback here. And you need to do something dramatic because you're going to have a lot of guys that aren't excited about the direction of it. And that's just the truth. We know that.
So do me the favor of liking, commenting, subscribing. The trolls too. They all help the algorithm. Make sure you like it though. If you're watching this far into it, physically go and like and comment and share. If you do all those three things, the channel grows. We feel a lot better about ourselves. And yeah, there you go. I'm kind of grumpy at the moment. I was actually happy, grumpy, not. Well, you know how it is. It's life of an A&M fan. There's some good days, some bad days, and some days like, man, why do we have to keep waiting? Well, we have to wait for the next one tomorrow.